All right, so today we're going deep into Kenyan higher education.
Okay.
And, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on over there.
Really interesting mix of, like, academic intrigue
Uh-huh.
and national security.
Yeah,
It's kind of a surprising combination. You don't always see that.
absolutely. And the article you've provided,
Right.
it focuses on two specific universities.
Okay.
The Islamic University of Kenya,
Okay.
IUK for short,
Got it.
and then also the National Intelligence and Research University,
Oh, wow.
which I think you'll probably hear is called NIRU as we go,
Yeah, makes sense.
just to make things a bit easier.
Right, much easier.
Both of those universities just received their charters.
That's huge.
It is a big deal.
So, like, why is this making headlines?
Well, I think
What's the big deal?
it all really kicked off with this ceremony on November 5th, 2024.
Okay.
It was a big event. President William Ruto himself was there
Wow.
to award those charters.
Okay.
And the thing that really struck me was how he emphasized the university's role,
Uh-huh.
in tackling these huge challenges facing Kenya,
Like what?
especially youth unemployment.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're being positioned
Right.
as these key institutions to kind of drive Kenya's future.
It's a pretty bold move
It is.
to put that much emphasis on universities,
Yeah.
especially when a country is dealing with
Right.
so many different competing priorities.
Exactly. And that's not even the most bold part.
Okay, what else?
This is a detail that really jumped out to me.
Okay.
NIRU, the National Intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and Research University,
Right.
that's actually Kenya's second university,
What?
specializing in national security.
No way.
They already have the National Defense University.
Okay, so this is a whole other one.
This is the second one on top of that.
Wow.
I mean, it's a huge signal
yeah.
that Kenya is like laser focused on security.
What do you think's driving that?
That's a great question.
Like, what's going on over there?
I mean, are they seeing new threats emerge?
Right.
Or are they maybe trying to position themselves as a
Yeah.
leader in security in the region?
Yeah, like step up and become the ones everyone looks to.
Yeah, definitely something we need to explore further.
Absolutely.
But before we get too deep into that,
Okay.
I think it's important to understand each of these universities
Okay. Yeah, let's break them down.
a little bit more individually.
Okay, so the IUK,
Yes.
I was reading about them.
Uh,
And it's so interesting because they started out
yeah.
with this really like specific, narrow focus.
Right.
They were specializing in Islamic languages.
Exactly.
But now they're branching out
Yeah.
into like medicine and IT.
Pretty ambitious.
Super ambitious.
Yeah. And they're really moving quickly.
Oh.
Like Ayub Chesala, who's the head of marketing at IUK,
Uh-huh.
he said they're already on track to launch programs in
Okay.
nursing pharmacy,
Oh, wow.
medicine law, and IT.
That's huge.
Yeah, they're definitely aiming to be a major player in Kenyan higher education.
Yeah. That's a really rapid expansion, especially for things like medicine that are so
Right.
specialized and complicated to set up.
Absolutely. It makes
Yeah.
you wonder how they're going to
Right.
manage that.
And also, I thought this was really interesting.
Good.
Despite its Islamic roots,
Yeah.
the IUK actually welcomes
Yeah.
students of all faiths,
Did you?
which is great.
It is.
I think that speaks to something. We're seeing a lot of universities around the world
Uh-huh.
really striving to be more inclusive and diverse.
Absolutely.
So I wonder what kind of role the IUK might play
Yeah.
in kind of promoting interfaith dialogue and
Yeah.
understanding within Kenya.
I mean, it really highlights
Yeah,
potential impact of these institutions,
totally.
not just on academics.
Right. It's about society as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we talked about the IUK.
Yes.
Really impressive growth.
Yeah.
Commitment to being inclusive.
Oh.
Now let's switch gears to NIRU.
The National Intelligence and Research University,
Okay.
and this whole focus on national security.
Right. Remember how President Ruto was talking about
Yeah.
terrorism and cyber threats? Like,
Yeah.
those were his big concerns.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear the NIRU is going to be
Right.
addressing those directly.
So what does that tell us?
Well, I think it raises a really important question.
What's that?
What does the creation of NIRU,
Right.
Kenya's second security-focused university,
Right.
what does that tell us about the types of threats
Yay.
they're dealing with now?
Totally.
This isn't just about like traditional warfare anymore. We're
Oh.
talking cyber attacks,
Uh-huh.
disinformation campaigns, terrorism.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected.
It's like they're building a university
Yeah.
for a whole different kind of battlefield
Exactly.
where information is the weapon.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
So how does this focus on security
Mhm.
position Kenya on like the global stage?
Oh, that's a good question.
Are they trying to become like a leader
Yeah.
in intelligence and counterterrorism?
Maybe a regional leader?
Yeah,
I think that's worth considering.
definitely some really interesting questions there.
Yeah.
But, before we get too deep into all of that,
Yeah.
I think we need to take a step back
Okay.
and just explain, like, how do universities even get charters in Kenya?
Right.
Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, because it's not as simple as just, putting up a building and...
Yeah, just hiring some professors.
Exactly.
Right.
There's got to be more to it.
There is.
Clear that.
So how does it work?
So in Kenya, there's this organization
Okay.
called the Commission for University Education,
Okay.
or CUE.
CUE, got it.
They're basically the gatekeepers
Okay.
for quality in higher education.
So what do they actually do?
They do a lot.
Okay.
They set the standards that universities have to meet.
Right.
They conduct inspections,
Uh-huh.
and they're the ones who ultimately recommend universities to the president to receive a charter.
So it's a pretty rigorous process to even get to that point.
Yeah, it takes time.
Like, how long are we talking?
Well, a university needs to be operating for at least 4 years
Wow.
before they can even apply for a charter.
So they really want to make sure that
Absolutely.
these universities are going to last.
They want to see a proven track record.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not just about having the buildings.
Right. It's about showing you can do it.
Yeah, you got to demonstrate that commitment.
Okay, so we've got these two new universities.
Yeah,
Very different missions.
very different.
One's focused on broadening access to education.
Right.
The other's all about tackling these national security issues.
Uh-huh.
Both seem to have a lot of support from the government,
They do.
but I imagine there are some differing opinions
Oh, absolutely.
about all of this.
Like any big change,
Right.
there are always going to be people
Uh-huh.
who have some concerns.
And are some of those concerns valid?
You know what?
No.
Some of them are actually quite valid.
Okay, I'm really curious to hear about that.
Yeah, we should definitely dig into that.
Let's do it.
Okay. One voice that stands out in this whole debate is
Okay.
Dr. Wilfrida Italondo.
Uh-huh.
She's a lecturer at Kenyatta University.
Okay.
And she's making the argument that Kenya
Okay.
should be focusing on improving the universities they already have
That's interesting.
before creating brand new ones.
Yeah, because on the surface, it seems like more universities is a good thing, right?
You would think.
More opportunities for students.
Right.
So what's Dr. Ayatolonder's reasoning?
Well, she points out that some universities
Okay.
are already overcrowded,
Oh, really?
like they're bursting at the seams,
Wow.
while others are actually struggling to attract students.
So you've got these two extremes.
Yeah, it makes you wonder
Right.
if you're not even using all the capacity
Right.
you've already got.
Why build more?
Why spread the resources even thinner? By building new universities.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then there's the issue of professors,
Mm-hmm.
which Dr. Italondo brings up.
Okay.
She says there just aren't enough professors in Kenya
Really?
to meet the current demand,
Wow.
let alone for these brand new universities.
And that's got to have a huge impact on
Right.
the quality of education overall.
Exactly.
You can't just keep spreading your faculty thinner and thinner.
Right. And it's not just about
Right.
having enough bodies in the classrooms.
Yeah.
It's about making sure those professors
Right.
have the time and the resources
Yeah, to prepare and everything.
to do their best work to mentor students,
Uh-huh.
to do research.
It's like building a house.
It is.
You got to have that strong foundation
Yeah.
before you start adding more floors.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, the whole thing is going to collapse.
Precisely.
So what does Dr. Italondo think Kenya should be doing?
Well, she believes that resources should be focused
Okay.
on strengthening those weaker institutions.
Oh.
You know, maybe invest in faculty development,
Mm-hmm.
upgrading facilities,
All right.
maybe even helping universities specialize
Oh, that's interesting.
in areas where they can really excel.
Yeah. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone,
Exactly.
just focus on what you're good at.
Yeah, play to your strengths.
Really become a leader in that specific area.
And then that specialization
Uh-huh.
might help them attract more resources,
Oh, right.
kind of create a positive cycle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So it's a complex issue
It is.
with no easy solutions.
Yeah, you've got this excitement
Right.
of new opportunities and expansion,
Uh-huh.
but then you also have to worry about
Yeah.
potentially sacrificing quality.
Quality for quantity.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the security situation
Oh, right. Yeah.
and NIRU, and it just adds this whole other layer.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a bit.
Okay.
I really want to understand
Yeah.
what kind of threats NIRU is being set up to address. So paint us a picture. What's the security situation in Kenya right now?
Kenya, unfortunately, faces a
Yeah.
whole bunch of different security challenges.
Okay.
President Ruto mentioned terrorism.
Right.
That's a major concern,
Uh-huh.
particularly from al-Shabaab,
Oh, right.
which operates in Somalia.
That name's familiar.
Yeah, they've been behind.
Yeah, I remember reading about some attacks.
Yeah, a lot of attacks in Kenya.
It's a real and constant threat.
It is.
It's not going away.
And it's not just about the direct attacks.
Right. There's more to it.
It creates this ripple effect,
Okay.
destabilizes the region,
Uh-huh.
creates fear and uncertainty,
Yeah.
which can really hurt the economy and
Right. Makes it hard to invest.
yeah, and just develop the country.
It's like a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle.
Okay, so we've got terrorism.
Yeah.
What about cyber threats?
Oh, those are huge.
Yeah, I feel like we hear about that
All the time.
everywhere these days.
It's a growing concern globally, and Kenya's definitely not immune.
So as they're building up their digital infrastructure,
Right.
they're also becoming more vulnerable.
Yeah, more connected means
Yeah.
more points for attack.
Okay. So what kinds of cyber threats?
Well, we're talking data breaches,
Oh,
where hackers steal information
Uh-huh.
from government agencies or businesses.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, and then there's ransomware attacks,
Okay.
where they lock up computer systems
I've heard about that.
and demand payment to unlock them.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about disinformation campaigns,
Right.
spreading false information online.
Yeah, to manipulate people.
Yeah, to try to influence public opinion.
It's a whole other battleground.
It is.
It's not just physical security anymore.
Right.
You need to protect your information, your digital systems.
And you need people who know how to do that.
So that's where NIRU comes in.
That's where NIRU comes in.
Training these intelligence professionals
Yeah.
to really focus on cybersecurity.
Right.
They're trying to stay ahead of the curve
Absolutely.
before it's too late.
They got to build that capacity
Yeah.
to deal with these really complex threats.
It's almost like they're realizing the battles of the future
Or
are going to be fought online.
as much as on land or at sea.
I wonder if other countries are going to start doing this too.
I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, as cyber threats become
Right.
more common, more sophisticated.
It only makes sense
Yeah.
that our education systems adapt.
It's like evolution.
It is like evolution.
You got to keep up or you get left behind.
Absolutely.
It makes sense, but we can't forget about
Right.
those concerns about quality and resources,
Oh, absolutely.
even with something as important as cybersecurity.
Right. You can't just create a program
Uh-huh.
without making sure it's properly
Right.
funded and staffed.
And that brings us back to
Yeah.
Dr. Italando's argument.
Right. If Kenya's going to invest in
Yeah.
specialized institutions like NIRU,
Uh,
they have to make sure those institutions
Yeah.
can actually succeed.
you got to set them up for success.
You do. That means attracting good faculty,
Right. Giving them what they need.
providing the resource.
Yeah, the tools, the technology.
Yeah, and making sure the quality of the instruction is high.
It's not just about having a building
No.
and
Right.
calling it a university.
You got to create an environment where
Right.
students can thrive
Yeah, where they can actually learn and grow.
and develop the skills they need.
Otherwise, it's just a fancy name.
Right. It is.
So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the success of NIRU is going to come down to
Yeah.
the quality of its graduates.
Absolutely. Can they actually go out there
Right.
and address these security challenges?
Yeah. Can they analyze threats?
Can they come up with solutions?
Can they actually do the work?
Right. And can they do it ethically
Yeah. Yeah, that's important.
in a high-pressure environment?
So it sounds like NIRU is a really bold move.
It is.
I mean, it shows that Kenya is serious
They are taking security seriously.
about security, and they're trying to
Oh,
build up their expertise in some pretty crucial areas.
and it also brings up those questions
Right.
about balancing this expansion
Uh-huh.
with maintaining that high level of quality.
It's a tough balance.
It is. It'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how it all plays out.
Like, will these new universities...
Right. Will they live up to the hype?
Will they be able to?
Will they get the faculty they need?
Yeah. Find the professors.
And will they actually make Kenya safer
Yeah. That's the big
in
question.
the long run?
Okay. So before we wrap up...
Oh, yeah. There was one more
I
thing.
know you mentioned...
Some of the source material
Yeah, there's one more point.
that I wanted to bring in.
Okay, what was that?
So the article mentioned
Yeah.
that 600,000 students
Wow.
who took the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exam,
Okay.
they didn't apply to any universities.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
But it's a massive number.
600,000 students.
Yeah.
Just not going to university.
It makes you wonder what's going on.
Why is that?
Why are so many students
Yeah.
choosing not to pursue higher education?
Is it a matter of access?
Could be. Are there enough spots
Right.
at the existing universities
Right.
for all the qualified students.
Or there's certain groups.
Right.
Maybe because of financial reasons.
Yeah, are they being left behind?
Or social reasons.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure
Right.
without more information.
But it definitely raises questions about the bigger picture.
Like, even if Kenya is expanding its universities,
Right.
is it really benefiting everyone?
Yeah.
Are they creating a system that's truly equitable and inclusive?
It feels like this is a whole other deep dive.
It does.
It's just waiting to happen.
Maybe we'll come back to this.
Yeah, but for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground
We have.
about these new universities.
And their potential impact on Kenya.
And some of the challenges they might face.
Absolutely.
We talked about expansion versus quality, this focus on security,
Yeah.
and the need to make sure everyone has access.
Education.
It's really complicated with no easy answers.
That's often the case.
So what can our listeners take away from all this?
Well, I think it's a chance to really think about the role of higher education in a country's development.
Especially in a world that's changing so fast.
Yeah, how do you balance the need for these specialized skills?
Like cybersecurity, with making sure people have a well-rounded education.
Yeah, that prepares them for anything.
It's a question every country is facing.
It is.
And it goes beyond just policy and economics.
Absolutely.
It's about the kind of society we want to live in.
Right. Do we want a world where only a few people have access to the knowledge they need?
Or do we want a world where everyone has that opportunity?
Those are big questions.
They are.
And ultimately, the answers depend on the choices we make.
The choices we make as individuals, as communities.
As nations.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's a reminder that education isn't just about learning facts. It's about empowering people.
Right. Giving them the tools to shape their own lives.
Yeah, to make the world a better place.
That's a perfect place to leave it.
I think so.
Until next time, keep diving.